High Councilor Xar'thul's third heart nearly stopped when the emergency transmission interrupted his mandatory relaxation period. His crystalline antennae flickered with annoyance as the holographic display materialized, showing the anxious face of Security Chief Razik. "This better be worth interrupting my regeneration cycle," Xar'thul rumbled, his bioluminescent patches pulsing with irritation. "The last time you called with an emergency, it was because the cafeteria ran out of fermented plasma pudding." "Your Eminence," Razik's voice cracked like a malfunctioning quantum stabilizer. "We've captured a human." Xar'thul's annoyance evaporated faster than water in the triple suns of Nexus Prime. "A human? Here?" In the Andromeda sector, he straightened his ceremonial robes, suddenly very awake. "Transport them immediately to Maximum Security Wing 7 of the Impenetrable Fortress." "Already done, Your Eminence. The human is secured in cell block Q99, under quantum-locked containment fields." "Excellent." Xar'thul paused, his fourth eye narrowing. "Wait. Did you say Q99? That's where we keep our most dangerous criminals. The ones who can reshape reality or devour stars for breakfast." Razik's tentacles writhed nervously. "Well, you see, Your Eminence, this human, she's different. When we captured her, she was smiling." Smiling, Xar'thul scoffed, all 6 of his nostrils flaring. "Razik, have you been inhaling too many cosmic spores? It's just a human. A primitive bipedal species that still thinks faster than light travel is impressive." "But Your Eminence, the Impenetrable Fortress has never failed to contain any being in its 1,000-year history. Its quantum-locked cells are powered by the energy of a collapsed neutron star. The security systems were designed by the most brilliant minds of 17 different species. And you think a single human could pose a threat to all that?" Xar'thul's laughter echoed through his chambers, causing the crystalline walls to resonate. "Next, you'll tell me they've developed something more sophisticated than their primitive nuclear fission." "The Council is already gathering for an emergency session, Your Eminence. They're concerned." "Fine. Xar'thul waved 3 of his appendages dismissively. "I'll attend this ridiculous meeting. But mark my words, Razik, in a few cycles, we'll all be laughing about how we overreacted to capturing one insignificant human." As the transmission ended, Xar'thul couldn't shake an uneasy feeling in all 7 of his stomachs. Something about Razik's nervousness was contagious. But no, he was being foolish. The Impenetrable Fortress of Nexus Prime had contained beings that could bend space-time with a thought. Surely a single human couldn't pose any real threat. Could she? The High Councilor shook his head, his antennae swaying with the motion. He'd attend this meeting, calm everyone's ridiculous fears, and then get back to his relaxation cycle. After all, how much trouble could one small human possibly cause in the most secure prison facility in 3 galaxies? The answer, as it turned out, would shake the foundations of the Galactic Council itself. Security Chief Razik watched through the quantum-reinforced observation window as the transport ship docked. His tentacles wrapped nervously around his data pad as the airlock cycled. The prisoner transfer team, composed of the most elite guards from 6 different species, stood ready with weapons that could vaporize a small moon. Initiating prisoner transfer protocols, announced Ved Ra, his second in command. Her metallic scales gleamed under the harsh lighting. Quantum shackles at maximum power. Neural dampeners active. Psychic suppressors engaged. "For a human," muttered Guard Captain Peacock, his crystalline exoskeleton crackling with disdain. "Seems like overkill." The airlock doors slid open with a soft hiss. Razik's tentacles went rigid. There, surrounded by enough firepower to start a small war, stood their prisoner, Alexandra Nash. She barely reached the shoulder height of the shortest guard, her frame slight compared to the massive aliens around her. Her red hair was pulled back in what humans called a ponytail, and her green eyes sparkled with. "Was that amusement?" "Nice place you got here," she said, glancing around the sterile white corridors. "Love what you've done with the quantum confinement fields. Though you might want to check the frequency modulation on the 3rd harmonic. It's a little off." Razik's primary heart skipped a beat. How could she possibly know about the quantum field harmonics? Silence. Human Peacock brandished his weapon. "You will speak only when spoken to." "Oh, sorry." Alex raised her shackled hands apologetically. "Didn't realize we were doing the whole intimidating prison guard thing. Should I cower? Maybe tremble a little?" She demonstrated an exaggerated shiver that made several guards shift uncomfortably. Vedra's scales rippled with annoyance. Proceed with full containment protocols. The procession moved through 17 security checkpoints, each more sophisticated than the last. Bioscanners, quantum analyzers, reality anchors, and temporal stabilizers all hummed as they processed the prisoner. Alex hummed along with them, perfectly matching their resonant frequencies. "Stop that," Razik snapped. "Stop what?" Alex asked innocently. "The humming? Or the fact that I'm mentally calculating the exact frequencies needed to create a harmonic cascade through your security grid?" The guards exchanged worried glances. P-Talk's crystalline surface developed several stress fractures. "That was a joke," Alex added cheerfully. "Humor. You guys have that here, right?" "No, tough crowd." They reached cell Q99, the most secure containment unit in the known universe. Its walls existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Its force fields could contain a supernova. Its neural suppressors could quiet the thoughts of a hive mind. "Home sweet home," Alex said as she stepped inside. "Though I have to say, the quantum entanglement on these force fields looks a bit last century. Have you considered upgrading to the new Mark VII containment matrices?" The force fields snapped into place. Razik quickly initiated the final lockdown sequence, trying to ignore the way the human was examining every detail of her cell with obvious interest. "Welcome to the Impenetrable Fortress," he said formally. "This will be your new permanent residence." "Permanent," Alex smiled, and something about that smile made all three of Razik's hearts stutter. "We'll see about that. By the way, is that celebratory feast for the High Council still scheduled for next week? I hear the fermented plasma pudding is to die for." Razik froze. That information was classified at the highest levels. There was no way she could know about it. No way at all. As they left the cell block, Vedra leaned close to whisper, "Sir, how did she know about the council feast?" "She couldn't," Razik replied, his tentacles twisting themselves into knots. "She absolutely couldn't." Behind them, they could hear Alex whistling a cheerful tune. It perfectly matched the resonant frequency of the quantum containment fields. Chief Interrogator Kyle Vex adjusted his atmospheric processor with a touch of theatrical flair. The device emitted a menacing hiss as it cycled through various gases designed to make prisoners uncomfortable. After 300 years of breaking the most hardened criminals in the galaxy, he knew every psychological pressure point of 17,000 species. But this human, this Alexandra Nash, she was humming. "Are you seriously doing maintenance on that thing during my interrogation?" Alex asked, raising an eyebrow at his atmospheric processor. "Because if you're trying to use thorium gas to make me anxious, you should know humans are immune to it. We've got these weird things called nose hair." Kyle Vex's outer membrane rippled with surprise. "How did you know about the thorium gas?" Alex stretched in her quantum-locked chair as much as the restraints would allow. "Lucky guess. Also, your atmospheric mixer is leaking. Might want to get that checked out before someone gets hurt." Enough games. Kyle Vex slammed all four appendages on the interrogation table. The force would have made most prisoners flinch. Alex just looked impressed at the table's durability. "Why were you found in the restricted sector of the Centauri Nexus?" he demanded. "Would you believe I was lost?" Alex smiled. "The signs in your space stations are terrible. I mean, who puts the bathroom symbols in 4-dimensional space? My poor human brain can only process 3 dimensions at a time." "You bypassed 17 layers of security." "Did I?" She looked genuinely surprised. "Wow, that's impressive. I must be better at this than I thought. Quick question though, is that security camera in the corner supposed to be flickering like that?" Kyle Vex turned sharply. The camera was functioning perfectly. "Made you look?" Alex chuckled. "Sorry, couldn't resist. But seriously, you might want to check the quantum encryption on your surveillance systems. The algorithm seems a bit primitive." A bead of condensation formed on Kyle Vex's membrane. The encryption protocols were classified at the highest level. Even he didn't have full access to them. "Tell me about Earth's defense systems." He tried another approach. "Oh, those old things," Alex yawned. "Basically glorified fireworks. Nothing compared to your quantum containment fields." Though she squinted at the walls. "Is that a phase variance in the 3rd quantum layer?" "That's going to cause problems during the next solar flare." "There are no solar flares in this sector." "Not yet," Alex winked. Give it about, 73 hours. Kyle Vex felt his professional demeanor cracking. He'd interrogated beings that could reshape reality, and none had unsettled him like this smiling human. Listen carefully, he leaned forward, voice dropping to a threatening whisper. We have ways of extracting information that your primitive mind cannot imagine. Like the psychic probe in sublevel 42, Alex asked brightly. The one powered by crystallized neutron star fragments? That's fascinating technology. Terrible color scheme, though. Who paints a psychic probe hot pink? Kyle Vex's membrane went completely transparent, the equivalent of a human's face draining of color. The psychic probe was a secret even from most of the prison staff. This interrogation is over, he announced, trying to keep his voice steady. Oh, really? But we were having such a nice chat. By the way, you might want to increase the power to the Western Sector's containment fields. They're looking a bit unstable. Hate for anything to happen during the council feast next week. As Kyle Vex fled the interrogation room, he nearly collided with Ved Ra in the corridor. How did it go, she asked, her scales shifting nervously. Cancel my next session, Kyle Vex said, his voice shaking, and check the Western Sector containment fields, just in case. Behind the quantum-locked door, they could hear Alex humming again. This time it was an old Earth-tuned jailbreak by Thin Lizzy. Neither of them understood the reference. Not yet, anyway. The Grand Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 17 advanced civilizations argued over the most pressing issue facing the galaxy: what to do about one smiling human female. Preposterous. High Councilor Xar'thul's bioluminescent patches flashed with irritation. We're seriously convening an emergency session over a single human. We have beings in that prison who eat black holes for snacks. Ambassador Nexus, a sentient cloud of ionized gas, condensed anxiously. Have you seen the psychological evaluation? She scored higher on the multiverse awareness test than our own quantum physicists. That's because she cheated, rumbled Grand Marshal K. Vax, his crystalline form vibrating with certainty. Humans can't possibly understand 11-dimensional mathematics. Then explain how she knew about the structural weakness in cell block 7. Ved Ra interjected, her scales rippling. A weakness we only discovered after she mentioned it. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices and telepathic arguments. Some representatives began glowing in ultraviolet frequencies of agitation. Order. Xar'thul's voice boomed across all 27 recognized frequencies of communication. Let's hear the psychological assessment from Dr. Quix. A small, hovering being composed entirely of pure energy moved to the center of the chamber. Their voice resonated directly in everyone's consciousness. The subject displays unprecedented levels of cognitive function, Dr. Quix began. She completed our standard intelligence tests in record time, then proceeded to correct 3 errors in the testing algorithms themselves. That's impossible, K-Vax interrupted. Those algorithms were designed by the collective consciousness of the hive mind dominion. Nevertheless, Dr. Quix continued, she did it while humming something called the Great Escape theme song. Furthermore, her behavior patterns are disturbing. She appears to be simultaneously suffering from extreme boredom and having the time of her life. What about the containment protocols? Asked Nexus. Surely our most advanced prison can hold 1 human. Security Chief Razik's tentacles twisted uncomfortably. We've had to upgrade security 6 times in the past week. She keeps pointing out flaws in our systems, flaws that shouldn't even be detectable without quantum scanning equipment. And the truly worrying part, Ved Ra added, is that she seems to know things. Classified things. She asked me yesterday if we'd fixed the plasma conduits in the eastern wing yet. We didn't discover those faulty conduits until 3 hours later. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. Perhaps, suggested Ambassador Nexus cautiously, we should consider moving her to the Omega Vault. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The Omega Vault was reserved for beings that threatened the fabric of reality itself. Move a human to the Omega Vault, Xar'thul scoffed. The other prisoners would laugh us out of the galaxy. Besides, the feast is in 3 days. We have more important things to worry about. About that feast, Razik interjected nervously. She mentioned something about the catering, said we might want to double-check the plasma pudding recipe. Apparently there's a chance of quantum destabilization if the fermentation process isn't properly calibrated. The chamber fell silent again. Check the pudding, Xar'thul ordered finally. Check everything. And someone find out how she knows all this. As the council dispersed, Dr. Quicks hovered thoughtfully. In all their centuries of studying alien psychology, they'd never encountered a mind quite like Alexandra Nash's. They had a disturbing feeling they were all missing something obvious. Something right in front of their many eyes. Guard Captain P. Talk prided himself on running the tightest shift rotation in the Impenetrable Fortress. Every guard movement was calculated to the microsecond. Every patrol was optimized using quantum probability algorithms. Nothing escaped his notice. Except, apparently, how he'd ended up playing something called chess with the human prisoner during his breaks. "Checkmate," Alex announced cheerfully, her holographic night piece capturing P-Talk's quantum state king. "That's 3 games in a row. You're getting better, though. Your defensive formations are really improving." P-Talk's crystalline surface shimmered with embarrassment. "This human game is surprisingly complex. The strategic elements remind me of the security patrol patterns we..." He stopped abruptly, realizing what he was about to reveal. "Oh, the patrol patterns." Alex moved her pieces back to starting positions. "You mean how Guard Team Alpha passes this cell block every 12.7 minutes, except during shift changes when it extends to 13.2 minutes, because Officer Xar'thul takes exactly 28 seconds longer to complete the quantum scanner protocols." P-Talk's crystalline structure nearly shattered from shock. "Don't worry," Alex winked. "I'm just observant. Speaking of which, you might want to tell Officer Xar'thul to recalibrate her scanner. The power cell is showing signs of quantum degradation. Would hate for it to fail during an important moment." Down in the maintenance sector, Vedra found herself in an equally puzzling situation. She'd come to fix a reported issue with the cell's atmospheric regulators, only to end up discussing advanced quantum mechanics with the prisoner. "See, the problem isn't the regulator itself," Alex explained, pointing at the diagnostic display. "It's the quantum interference from the neighboring cell's containment field. The harmonics are just slightly off, creating a cascading resonance effect that'll become noticeable in about 3 days." Vedra's scales shifted colors rapidly. "That's impossible. Our systems are perfect." "Almost perfect," Alex corrected gently. "Like this chess game. Want to play?" "I've been teaching P-Talk, but he's still learning the basics." In the medical bay, Dr. Quicks found themselves increasingly fascinated by their daily psychological evaluations of the prisoner. Alex had somehow turned their standard assessment sessions into engaging discussions about consciousness and reality. "It's interesting how your species perceives time non-linearly," Alex mused during one session. "Must make scheduling the guard rotations tricky, especially with the upcoming feast preparations taking up so much security bandwidth." Dr. Quicks's energy form flickered. "How did you know about the security bandwidth allocation?" "Just a logical deduction," Alex smiled. "By the way, has anyone checked the quantum encryption on the maintenance access tunnels lately? I've been hearing some odd harmonics through the wall. Probably nothing, but better safe than sorry, right?" In the security control room, Razik reviewed the daily logs with growing unease. Everything was running smoothly, too smoothly. The human had become a model prisoner, spending her time playing chess, discussing science, and making helpful suggestions about facility maintenance. So a junior guard interrupted his thoughts. The prisoner requested to move her chess game with P-Talk to an hour later tomorrow. Something about wanting to finish a discussion with Dr. Quicks about quantum consciousness. Fine, Razik waved a tentacle dismissively. "At least she's keeping busy and not causing trouble." The guard paused. "She also mentioned that we might want to run a level 3 diagnostic on the emergency containment protocols. Said she heard some odd vibrations during her meditation." Razik sighed. "Run the diagnostic, and check the quantum harmonics in Section 7 again, and the encryption on the maintenance tunnels, and just check everything." As the guard left, Razik pulled up the surveillance feeds. There was Alex, sitting cross-legged in her cell, humming softly as she arranged chess pieces. The picture of innocence. Too innocent. In her cell, Alex glanced up at the camera and smiled. She began humming a new tune, something about a rock and a hammer. None of the aliens recognized the ancient Earth movie reference to the Shawshank Redemption. They really should have. Because while the entire prison staff was busy checking quantum harmonics, surveillance systems, and atmospheric regulators, Nobody noticed how the seemingly random patterns of chess pieces, maintenance requests, and schedule changes were slowly coming together like pieces of a massive puzzle. A puzzle only Alex could see. For now, the emergency alarms blared through the Impenetrable Fortress exactly 3 minutes before the Grand Council feast was scheduled to begin. High Councilor Xar'thul's antennae vibrated with rage as Security Chief Razik burst into the preparation chamber. "What is the meaning of this interruption?" Xar'thul demanded, his ceremonial robes shimmering with irritation. "Your Eminence," Razik's tentacles were tied in more knots than anyone had ever seen. "We've been running all the diagnostics and security checks the humans suggested. And they're all perfect. Every single system," she pointed out. "There's nothing wrong with any of them." Xar'thul's bioluminescent patches pulsed with confusion. "Then why are the alarms?" "Because we've been checking everything she told us to check," Vedra interrupted, her scales almost white with panic, "and completely missed what she didn't mention." The realization hit Xar'thul like a quantum torpedo. Get to her cell. Now. But P-Talk was already rushing in, his crystalline form clouded with distress. "She's gone. The cell's empty." "Impossible!" Xar'thul roared across 3 different frequencies. "Check the quantum containment fields." "They're running perfectly." Vedra's scales were shifting through colors faster than ever, just like she helped us calibrate them. Dr. Quicks materialized in the chamber, their energy form crackling with urgent realization. "Don't you see? Every maintenance request, every chess game, every conversation about quantum mechanics. She wasn't revealing security flaws, she was making us focus on the wrong things." The pieces started falling into place in Xar'thul's mind. The guard rotation changes. "She used the chess games to map them," P-Talk groaned, his crystalline surface cracking with shame. "The maintenance requests got us to optimize systems that didn't need fixing," Vedra whispered. "The psychological evaluations were a masterclass in misdirection." Dr. Quicks flickered. "She wasn't revealing classified information. She was making us think she had access to it, so we'd waste resources checking for security leaks that didn't exist." Suddenly, every screen in the facility lit up with a message. Alex's smiling face appeared before them. "Hi everyone. Sorry to skip the feast, but the plasma pudding really isn't my thing. Thanks for being such great hosts. Special thanks to P-Talk for the chess games. By the way, that wasn't just chess we were playing. Those moves, they mapped out every blind spot in your patrol patterns." The council members watched in horror as she continued. "Vedra, those quantum mechanics discussions? They got you to realign your containment fields to create a harmonic frequency that, well, you'll figure it out soon. Dr. Quicks, our talks about non-linear time perception were fascinating. And also completely distracted you from noticing what I was really planning." Razik's tentacles went completely limp as understanding dawned. "The diagnostic checks kept you all so busy making sure nothing was wrong that you never noticed what I was actually doing." Alex's grin widened. "A magician's greatest tool is misdirection. Or in this case, a prisoner's. But the cell's quantum locks. The security protocols," Xar'thul sputtered, "are all working perfectly." Alex nodded. "Exactly as designed. Exactly as I helped you optimize them. You just never asked why I was so helpful." Vedra's scales turned completely transparent. "The feast preparations diverted 90% of your security resources to protecting the council members, just as I knew they would. Oh, and that chess game P-Talk and I were supposed to have right now. That's why no one was watching the maintenance corridors I actually used." The entire council stood in stunned silence as Alex gave them a little wave. "Thanks for everything. Don't worry, I left detailed notes on how I did it. You know, for next time, though you might want to check the actual plasma pudding. That part wasn't a misdirection, it really is unstable." The transmission cut off just as the first explosion rocked the facility's kitchen. The Impenetrable Fortress descended into perfect chaos as Alex's plan unfolded like a deadly symphony. Warning sirens blared across all frequencies as Security Chief Razik's tentacles flew over the control panels. "Western sector containment fields are failing," a guard screamed. "No, they're not." Vedra's scales flashed with sudden understanding. "They're working exactly as she helped us calibrate them. The harmonics are creating a cascading resonance pattern. Through the security feeds, They watched in horror as the sequence of events unfolded. The quantum-locked doors in Section 7 opened and closed in a precise pattern, creating a ripple effect through the security grid. The chess game's P-Talk's crystalline form vibrated with dismay. The pieces, the moves, they weren't random at all. On the screens, they could see the pattern of opening doors matching exactly the movements of knights and bishops from Alex's chess matches. Each game had been a practice run, mapping out her escape route in plain sight. "Get those doors back online," Xar'thul roared. "We can't." Razik's tentacles were practically tied in knots. "She's using the maintenance overrides we gave her access to when she reported those system harmonics." In the medical bay, Dr. Quicks watched their carefully documented psychological assessments rearrange themselves into an entirely new pattern. Every conversation about quantum consciousness, every discussion about nonlinear time perception, had been precisely calculated to create blind spots in their security protocols. The emergency containment protocols, Ved Ross suddenly shouted. "Activate them now." "Already on it," Razik responded, his tentacles dancing across the controls. Nothing happened. "Oh no," Ved Ra's scales turned pure white. The chess tournament schedule changes. The shifted guard rotations. She created a 90-second window where the backup protocols can't engage because of the safety interlocks we installed, the ones she suggested. Through the chaos, they caught glimpses of Alex on various security feeds, moving with precise timing through the facility. Each appearance seemed carefully calculated to draw security teams in the wrong direction. "She's in Section 3, a guard shouted. "No, Section 7. Level B. A. The maintenance tunnels." Xar'thul's bioluminescent patches flashed with rage. How can she be in 4 places at once? The security camera loops Dr. Quicks's energy form pulsed with realization. All those times she pointed out minor glitches, she was teaching the system to accept altered footage as normal. The plasma pudding in the kitchen chose that moment to reach critical quantum destabilization. The resulting explosion wasn't large, but it was perfectly timed to overload the power distribution grid that Alex had so helpfully suggested they optimize last week. Emergency lights flashed as systems began failing in a cascade that looked random but was anything but. Each failure forced security protocols to reroute exactly as Alex had predicted they would, creating a perfect pathway through the facility's defenses. "The quantum entanglement fields," Ved Ra screamed. "They're creating a temporal feedback loop." "Because we adjusted them based on her recommendations," P-Talk groaned. "She wasn't warning us about harmonic instabilities. She was telling us exactly how to create them." On the main security screen, a message appeared. "Thanks for the chess lessons, P-Talk. By the way, quantum rook to security section 4. P-Talk's crystalline surface nearly shattered as he realized the implications. "No, that's the exact move I used to." The entire security station's power grid went dark, then rebooted in a pattern matching P-Talk's favorite chess strategy. The maintenance access shaft, Razik's tentacles pointed at a sudden energy spike. "She's there." "No," Dr. Kix corrected, their energy form dimming with admiration. "That's where she wants us to think she is. Remember what she told me about nonlinear perception of events?" They all watched in helpless awe as their supposedly perfect security systems performed exactly as designed, exactly as optimized, exactly as Alex had helped them modify them to work. Each system functioned flawlessly, creating a perfect storm of coordinated chaos that could only have been months in the planning. Through it all, they could hear her humming. The sound came through every speaker, every communication channel. A cheerful tune that seemed to mock their most sophisticated containment protocols. "What is that melody?" Xar'thul demanded. "According to Earth Cultural Databases, Dr. Quicks responded, "It's something called Mission Impossible. 3 days after the most spectacular prison break in galactic history, the Grand Council chamber was unusually quiet. The usual pomp and ceremony had been replaced by a heavy atmosphere of humiliation and dawning comprehension." High Councilor Xar'thul's bioluminescent patches had dimmed to an embarrassed pastel as he read the report that had just arrived from Earth's diplomatic corps. "Would you like to share with the Council what you've learned?" Dr. Quicks's energy form pulsed gently. They already knew they'd helped decode the message, but protocol had to be maintained. Alexandra Nash, Xar'thul began, his voice resonating with defeat across multiple frequencies, "is not just any human. She's Earth's foremost expert in quantum security systems and applied xenopsychology. Vedra's scales shifted to a deep blue of realization. She wasn't a prisoner at all, was she? No, Xar'thul continued. She was sent here deliberately, to test our security. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of protests and exclamations across 17 different species-specific communication methods. Silence. Xar'thul's voice boomed. It gets worse. The humans have been watching us, studying us. While we dismissed them as primitive, they were analyzing our every move. Alexandra Nash didn't break out of our prison. She broke into it. Impossible. Vax's crystalline form vibrated with denial. Think about it, Dr. Quicks interjected. Every suggestion she made, every system she helped us optimize, she wasn't learning our security protocols. She was testing them, proving they could be bypassed. Security Chief Razik's tentacles curled with embarrassment. The chess games, the maintenance requests, the psychological evaluations, all designed to prove a point. Xar'thul confirmed that our most secure facility could be compromised not through brute force or advanced technology, but through something far more basic: understanding how different species think and behave. A new hologram materialized in the center of the chamber. Alex's smiling face looked down at them. Hi everyone, hope you're all recovered from the excitement. By the way, that plasma pudding explosion, sorry about that, but it did prove my point about your quantum containment protocols needing a serious upgrade. The council watched in stunned silence as she continued. You see, Earth has been ready to join the Galactic Council for a while now. But we needed to prove something first. Not that we're technologically advanced, though I think I demonstrated we understand quantum mechanics just fine. No, we needed to prove we understand something more important. People, or should I say, beings of all kinds. Her expression turned serious. Your prison wasn't just secure because of its technology. It was secure because 17 different species contributed to its design, each bringing their own perspectives and methods. But that diversity became a weakness because none of you truly understood how the others think. You created blind spots. I just had to find them. And now, Xar'thul asked, knowing the answer would change everything. Now Alex smiled. Earth would like to formally apply for membership in the Galactic Council. We're offering our expertise in xenopsychology and cross-species security integration. Also, I've left detailed reports on every security flaw I discovered. Consider it a goodwill gesture. The transmission ended, leaving the council in thoughtful silence. Well, Dr. Quicks's energy form sparkled with what might have been amusement. I believe the humans have made their point, and their offer is intriguing. Intriguing. Talk's crystalline surface rippled. She made us look like fools. No, Vedra's scales shifted to a color of deep understanding. She showed us our own foolishness. Our arrogance in dismissing humans as primitive made us blind to their true capabilities. Xar'thul looked around the chamber, at representatives of 17 of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, all humbled by one smiling human female. All an emergency session of the full council, he ordered. And someone find us some human experts on quantum security systems. We clearly need them. As the chamber emptied, Dr. Quicks lingered, their energy form pulsing thoughtfully. You know, they said to no one in particular. She was humming another Earth song as she left, something about a whole new world. In the distance, they could still hear the emergency crews trying to clean up the plasma pudding explosion. Somehow, it felt like a perfect metaphor for the mess the council now found themselves in. A mess that would, ironically, lead to the greatest advancement in intergalactic cooperation since the council's founding. All thanks to one human who had outthought them all.